What is going on, everyone? It's Token, and we are finally back with some MPL Division 2 action. So I hope you guys that are fond of League format are a little hyped to finally have some League format action back on the channel. And it is now playoff time. We are finally at the playoffs. I'm so excited to get into playoffs. It's so awesome to, in my first league as a content creator, to have been able to make it into the playoffs. And the MPL Division 2, it's been an up and down ride, but once it's playoffs, it's playoffs. Everyone really wants to win that championship, and everyone's going to be putting their best effort forth. So this is not going to be easy by any measure. So hopefully we can give our best effort, and win or lose, we still feel good about the effort and the fight that we put up. That is what would make me happy in the end. Thank you all so much for tuning in into today's video. If you do end up enjoying, definitely leave a like and definitely subscribe for more League format action, because spoilers, but I also have another league planned out, and that league will actually be a Wi-Fi league, so I'm so excited to get into that too. But let's focus on the task at hand, which is this MPL Division 2 matchup we have in the semifinals versus the Golden State Wartortles, coached by FrostyPok3manz, aka Alpha Lycanroc. So pretty much, you guys are probably like, Token, when the heck did playoffs? When did it become playoffs? We haven't seen an MPL Division 2 match in at least 2 weeks. Well, let me explain. So pretty much what happened was the fact that a lot of people, especially people who kind of saw that their playoff chances were no longer there, stopped kind of prioritizing finishing those matches. So unfortunately, a lot of people were gifted forfeits in those final 2 weeks. I was one of those people who were gifted forfeits in those final 2 weeks. We didn't play the Bexla Health Bisharps, and we also didn't play, I do not recall the other, who's the other opponent I had? I think the Virginia Volcaronas. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was the Virginia Volcaronas. So yes, both of those games ended up in being forfeits in my favor. So we ended the season with a 6-2 record. 8-2 record. There's 10 weeks. Finished the season with an 8-2 record, and that guaranteed us not only a playoff spot, but it gave us a first-round bye as well, to where we didn't have to play in the quarterfinals because that's a pretty good record. 8-2 is a pretty good record. So thankfully, we're in a good spot. We didn't have to play in the quarterfinals. We got to just come strong and ready in the quarterfinals. So I was very excited to get this done. My opponent, FrostyPok3manz, he was able to best his opponent in the quarterfinals, to where he was able to get to us. And that's exactly what you see on the screen is his team, the Golden State Wartortles. And I wanted to recap. I should have done this the entire season. I don't know why I was like reading the teams off of my phone, and I don't want to really do facecam for this, because I feel like facecam is just something more so that's like really good for live commentating as well as Wi-Fi bells, because I don't know, I just really like facecam and Wi-Fi. So sorry guys, no more facecam for these. I just don't really see the necessity for it. Anyways, FrostyPok3manz, what we're looking at right now is his team. And he had a lot of actual, we were given the opportunity to make some extra drops and free agent pickups. That's the word I was looking for, pickups. We were able to make some extra drops and pickups going into the playoffs. I was really busy, so I looked over a little bit, but I wasn't really able to prioritize looking at exactly what was available and what would have really worked out with my points and everything. So I unfortunately didn't make any moves. I probably would have moved on from Komala. I grown really unfond of that Pokemon, so I probably would have moved on from Komala if given the chance. But unfortunately, I was really busy and wasn't really able to really look to really get a really solid look at what exactly was available and what would have still fed on my team. And I really still did want Rapid Spin, and that's our only Rapid Spinner, so maybe having Komala will end up being a good thing. Anyways, let's quickly recap FrostyPok3manz's team. So as you can see on this right hand side, his transactions, he ended up dropping the Spirit Team, the Magnezone, the Crobat, the Drotagon, and the Alolan Muck. So a lot of drops for him. And honestly, that is going to give him a little bit of an advantage against us, because we have played previously. If you guys do remember, we played before. I was setting up light screens and stuff, blah blah. Came down to the end, and I think I ended up winning a 3-0 or 2-0. I think it was actually a 2-0, but definitely. It's actually right here. Yes, it was a 3-0. I ended up winning 3-0 against him in week 3 of the regular season. So he has a very good insight on exactly how I use in my team, but I don't really know exactly how, like, not exactly, obviously I have a hunch of how he's going to want to use some of his new pickups, but I don't know exactly how he's going to want to use some of these new pickups, so that gives him just a slight advantage, and the fact that he has some very threatening Pokemon, and he made his team definitely better in my opinion with these new Pokemon he added. He now has a Thunderous. That is so scary, one of the most threatening offensive Pokemon in League format or in general, just an amazing offensive Pokemon with a very quality typing in Electric as well as Levitate, Electric Flying, and as well, so obviously it's immune to EQ, not Levitate, and as well as a really good ability in Volt Absorb, so definitely a really good Pokemon to add. He added that Mantine as well, which is an interesting scoop, so I don't really know exactly what he'll want to do with that, but we'll see. Added Drapion, which is definitely an upgrade in my opinion over the Alolan Muck. He wasn't really using that too well, so that's definitely an upgrade. Added Lucario, which is also a new interesting Pokemon. Not exactly, or yeah, Lucario's new. Not exactly sure how he'll go about using Lucario, but it'll be interesting to see. He added the Virizion, which is also a really nice Pokemon to add to his team, considering that that gives him just a lot more offensive power, and it, Grass Fighting as an offensive typing is really lethal, so that's a really good scoop. And then I think the Frostlass might not be new. I think it is, but it might not be. It's either, yeah, excuse me, I think it has to be the Frostlass. Yeah, I think it has to be the Frostlass because it's definitely not the Heracross. The Heracross isn't new, so I'm gonna guess that the Frostlass was the other pickup that he made. So yes, a lot of new Pokemon that definitely all look really strong against my team. Drapion looks very threatening against my team. Virizion looks very threatening. Frostlass looks very threatening, and Thunderous looks extremely threatening. So it'll be really interesting to see what exactly out of those new scoops my opponent actually brings, and how exactly he goes about using them. So let's just hop right on to my team builder. Even though I said I wouldn't, sorry if you guys heard that off my phone, I'm so sorry about that. But I know I said in a previous video that I would no longer be going in depth over my team builder and everything, exactly how I build my team, but I will be doing that for this time just because it's playoffs, and it's playoffs, so let's definitely go in depth about the team I'm bringing, just so you guys have as much insight exactly on why I made the plays I make and all of that. So let's hop right into that. As you can see, this is going to be the team I brought: Tapu Fini, freaking Reuniclus, Landorus, Therian, Mineshaw, Scizor, and Sneasel, Mega Scizor and Sneasel. So with a lot of new Pokemon, I ended up still, I think this is the exact team I still brought last time, but definitely not built in the same way as I did last time, considering that my opponent has some new threats, and considering I also don't want to be too predictable as well. But definitely some things, mainly these first two, are really similar to the first time we played. So let's just hop right into it. So the Tapu Fini, pretty much what I was thinking with Tapu Fini was that honestly, he has so many threatening special attackers. When you look at the Tapu Lele, when you look at the Alakazam, when you look at the Thunderous, when you look at the, what were some of the other ones? Tapu Lele, Alakazam, Thunderous, the Frostlass, and I think there was one more. I can't think of it right now. But yes, he has so many very threatening offensive Pokemon to his disposal on the special side. So I definitely wanted to run Light Clay on Tapu Fini so I could go for screens and make sure those screens last for as long as possible, because it worked well in the first game. So I feel pretty confident that that could work pretty well again. This time I'm going. Last time I think I wasn't fully specially defensive with just full HP investment on Tapu Fini, but this time I did prioritize doing that because I'm really afraid of those special attackers, especially now that my opponent has a Thunderous Therian. That just puts so much more pressure on my team, and it's pretty much Bolt Beam coverage. It's not exactly Bolt Beam because it doesn't get the actual Ice Beam, but it does still get HP Ice, and it has a very powerful special attack stat, so it's still going to do tons of damage to Pokemon that it's super effective against, especially my Landers. So yeah, I definitely wanted to run Light Clay with screens so that those could stay up and give me a real chance to live some of these powerful hits. Calm Mind, just because I felt like if I was in on a passive Mon, I could Calm Mind up and it would be really beneficial, especially with the screen, so that my Tapu Fini wasn't taking much damage at all, considering I don't have leftovers, so there's no recovery on this Pokemon, so any damage I take is there to stay. I do not also have Wish on this team. As you can see, none of the rest of this team has Wish to their disposal. So, and then I just went with Moonblast. That's really good coverage for his entire team. I'm not even sure he has a steel type. So, oh, well, he has the Lucario, but it's also a fighting type. So obviously Moonblast is neutral on that. And Lucario was the one special attacker I think I was missing, but it can go mix. So that's kind of why I was having a lapse in knowledge there. But yeah, that's pretty much Finny. Not really much else to say about it. Really straightforward. Wanted to set up screens, wanted to Calm Mind if it's in on something pretty passive, and want to just fire off Moonblast if I am going on the offensive, and just trying to be really specially bulky so that I can take a hit and set up a screen if necessary, or just be able to take those hits in general as best as possible. So I'll definitely be needing to switch this thing on Tapu Lele, so I need it to be as specially bulky as possible, considering that the Lele could be Specs, could be Life Orb, could be so many things, Twisted Spoons. So I just needed to make sure that my special defense was as high as it possibly could be. So next we get into Mucinex, the Reuniclus. I wish I would have nicknamed the entire team, but I actually just took this Reuniclus set from the previous time we played each other, and that might have not have been the brightest decision, considering that maybe I would have needed to move around some EVs and stuff like that. But I felt like this Reuniclus was really strong anyways, and that I also didn't want Reuniclus to be too passive. I wanted to be able to take hits on the physical side as well, just in case some physical threat was giving us a lot of trouble. And then I also wanted to not be too passive on the offensive end, so that's why I have the 116 in special attack. Let's get right into that. Yeah, that's why I have the 116 in special attack, the 140 in defense to take those defensive hits, and then the 204 in special defense with the Calm Nature, just so that I could take those so that Reuniclus can still, even though I am running Calm Mind with Leftovers and Regenerator, I still need to be able to take those special hits really well, especially because Tapu Lele and Mega Alakazam both get Shadow Ball, and that's going to do tons of damage to Reuniclus. So I need to make sure that I'm still very specially bulky, so I can still tank out those hits a little bit. The 4 in speed is literally just leftover EVs, doesn't even matter. But yeah, pretty straightforward Reuniclus. Shy Shock, Shadow Ball, Calm Mind, Recover, and just pretty specially bulky, but still trying to be bulky on the defensive end if necessary, if it came down to that, because of things like Lucario and stuff, in case Lucario ended up being a physical attacker or something like that. And if I lost Scissor and I needed a switch into something, maybe Reuniclus to some physical attacker, maybe like Miltank, maybe Reuniclus could provide me that. So pretty much what I was thinking with Reuniclus, and I still want to be pretty offensive, so that I wasn't just too passive and too defensive, and like desperately needed to Calm Mind before I could go offensive. And also for the switching in on the Virizion, I thought in case my opponent started to predict that, go for Leaf Blades and stuff like that. It might be in my best. It might be in my my best interest to invest a decent amount in that physical bulk, so that I could switch in on Virizion pretty nicely. And yeah, just really the main thing that was scaring me with this Reuniclus was that Drapion. I knew that Drapion would be brought. I was almost certain Drapion was going to be brought, and or I'm almost certain that Drapion is going to be brought, and I didn't want to get trapped, so I knew that same thing with the Alola that I played it last time, where I was kind of predicting when my opponent would go into a Alola and then switching out my Reuniclus and going into Landorus, so that I can pretty much double out and get the momentum, as my opponent obviously wouldn't want to take an EQ. So that's pretty much what I was thinking with Reuniclus. That I would definitely have to play around the Drapion pretty well, but I felt like that was something we could definitely do. So that's Reuniclus. Then we get into Landorus. And Landorus is this is where things get a little bit different from last time. I had been running Scarf Landorus for a majority of this season, as it's just so strong in my opinion, and it was putting so much pressure on so many on my opponent's teams, and it's like pretty much one of my best offensive Pokemon. So obviously making it as fast as possible. Considering a 91 speed stat is good, but it's not amazing. It's far from amazing, especially against my opponent's team, because actually it's pretty funny to me, but actually, the only Pokemon that Landorus outspeeds on my opponent's team is Lucario, Mantine, and Heracross. With its the only Pokemon that it has a higher base speed stat than. So anything that's not Lucario, Mantine, or Heracross, they have a higher base speed stat than my Landorus. So that's pretty ridiculous. So it shows you how sometimes 91 speed stat isn't the absolute best at all. So that is kind of why you probably see me using Scarf a decent amount, because it's just really nice, and it makes Landorus able to be, it also allows me to run Adamant while still being extremely fast, so that's always really nice. This time though, I didn't want to run Scarf Landorus. for a few reasons. One, I feel like it would be really predictable again to run Scarf Landorus again. I feel like my opponent would prep well for it. Two, my opponent now has a Mantine and a Thundurus Therian, so those are two Pokemon that could switch it into EQs if I lock myself into that. And I really wouldn't want my opponent to realize that I was Scarf with my Landorus after I got like a kill with EQ. They go into their Thundurus and they set up an Agility or they set up a Nasty Plot. Definitely didn't want either of those two things to happen at all. So another reason why I didn't really want to run Scarf. And last but not least, I can't remember the last reason I didn't want to run Scarf, but those are pretty much the. I felt like my opponent would also maybe bring like a Rocky Helmet Garchomp, and I felt like with Scarf that would be much more of an issue than if I wasn't Scarf, just because then I would be able to. I probably wouldn't go for U-turn as much if I'm not Scarf, so then there's a less likely chance that I would just be taking so much Rocky Helmet damage from my opponent's Garchomp. So this time around we're going to be running an interesting moveset of Earthquake, Stone Edge, U-turn, and Rock Polish. I actually I debated on Stealth Rocks a lot. I knew Stealth Rocks would be nice. I knew there'd be a decent amount of switching in this game, and I knew that chip damage would be nice on a lot of my opponent's Pokemon, because I slightly missed out on a few Okos with some of my moves. But unfortunately, I still wanted Landorus to have the ability to really put a lot of pressure on my opponent's team, and I felt like Rock Polish provided a lot more than Stealth Rocks would have provided for me in this game. So that is what I prioritized putting on Landorus, because barring Scarfers, after a Rock Polish, even with no speed investment, as you can see with this Landorus, it outspeeds my opponent's entire team, just barring Scarfs. So I knew this could put immense pressure on my opponent's team, and it could really catch him off guard, and kind of put me in the driver's seat, especially with the ground DMZ, so that I can chunk something that I can't hit hard enough with EQ, Stone Edge, or U-turn, such as that Miltank. Pretty much kind of want to, that's the main thing I was kind of looking at, because I'll get into my Mind Chow set later, but I thought I might have a little bit of trouble actually getting Mind Chow in on Miltank, and that's pretty much my best way. I don't have Toxic or anything like that because I have a Tapu Fini, so that's pretty much my best way of dealing with the Miltank. And I knew that getting a high jump kick off on Miltank would be an issue, so I really like the ground DMZ with the Rock Polish, so I can really chunk something as well. Just gotta hope my opponent doesn't go for Milk Drink after I go for the ground DMZ. That'd be terrible. But yeah, EQ, Stone Edge, U-turn, just a pretty much solid coverage for pretty much everything on my opponent's team. And yeah, as long as barring Scarfs, this will outspeed my opponent's entire team, and still able to go fully adamant. And then I invested heavily in special defense, because like I said, so many Pokemon outspeed my Landorus that will have higher base speed stat than my Landorus, that I really didn't see the need, especially with Rock Polish getting me to faster and everything like I needed. Really didn't see the need to invest in special defense, so I mean in speed, so I went fully in special defense, so that this investment actually allows me to live I think it's a timid, yeah, it's a timid Thundurus Therian's Ice Beam, I meant Hidden Power Ice. It allows me to live that, so that seemed really nice, and like something that could come into play, as I could maybe Rock Polish up on Thundurus Therian if it came down to that, and then kind of Stone Edge, and then just go from there and try to obliterate my opponent's team either late game or mid game whenever I needed to go for this. And I just dropped 12 EVs into defense, because I felt this would be one of my best Drapion switch-ins, so I wanted to invest just a little bit more in defense, so that I could take those knockoffs or whatever it chose to go for as best as possible. And yeah, so that's pretty much what I was thinking with Landorus. Then we get into Mind Chow, and Mind Chow is actually going to be my Scarf for this week. And the reason I decided to Scarf Mind Chow over Landorus is because Mind Chow doesn't have a move that my opponent has an immunity to, like Landorus with its stab EQs. He has no ghost type anymore. I think, yeah, he got rid of the Spiritomb, so I don't think there's a ghost. Yeah, oh, there's a Frostlass, but I don't know. I didn't really feel like Frostlass would be broad, and if it was broad, I felt like it'd just kind of be led and kind of just try to do some shenanigans with leading. So I didn't feel the need to be too worried about Frostlass. But yeah, pretty much wanted to Scarf Mind Chow because I felt like its coverage options would be really nice in this one, and I felt like it would be hard to bring Mind Chow without a Scarf in this one, considering that a good few things would kind of outspeed it, such as that Frostlass, the Mega Alakazam, and I think there's a few other things. But yeah, I just wanted to, and then anything that Scarf obviously as well. So I really thought the Scarf was a good option. it makes it so that actually getting the high jump kick off on Miltank is actually a little bit trickier, because then I'm locked into high jump kick and my opponent can just switch out into like Lele or something, knowing that I probably want to obliterate that Miltank, because it's just, it could give my team a lot of issues. So definitely makes it a little bit trickier. But then we do have the Stone Edge, which will OHKO Thunder Starion, so that's good. Poison Jab, if it's a non-bulky Lele with like literally no the defense investment or HP investment, Poison Jab does from 84% to 99.6%, so just ever so slightly misses out on the OHKO. So if I can just get a little bit of chip on Lele, I should be able to take it out with a Poison Jab. But I'm not really sure how much I will be going for Poison Jab in this one, as I know that being locked into Poison Jab does not sound like the best thing, and my opponent might see that I'm Scarf. They might get the hunch that I'm Scarf or something, so I'm not really sure how much I'll be going for Poison Jab, but I knew it would be a good option to have, especially if I was back against the wall and needed something to go into. Could maybe catch my opponent off with a really nice Poison Jab, chunking their Tapu Lele. Then just U-turn, it also just ever so slightly misses out on O-Coin Mega Alakazam, so I'd also need a little bit of chip damage on that, which did make me kind of want to run Rocks, but I still really thought Rock Polish was a better option. I really needed the moveset with Rock Polish to use it to its full ability on Landorus, so that's pretty much that. And but yeah, with the Scarf, only needed 188 EVs in speed, so then I was still able to invest entirely in attack with Anatomy Nature, so we'll be dishing out a lot of damage like I pretty much told you to calcs. And then I dumped a lot in special defense because I felt like my opponent has all these threatening special attackers, obviously never going to stay in on a Lele or an Alakazam, but I just wanted to make sure that if for some reason a special attacker was going for an attack on me, I would rather have more EVs in special defense so that I can possibly live that. And the 60 in special defense actually allows me, it's a rolled if it's a modest Thunder Starion, but if it's a Timid Thunder Starion, I 100% live a Thunderbolt from it, so that seemed like something that wasn't too bad, so I went with 60 in special defense. Then we get into Mega Scissor. And I just felt like Mega Scissor's typing was a little too good to pass up in this one, because my opponent does have those very threatening special attacking psychic types, which Scissor does resist. So I thought that sounded nice, as well as I thought Scissor could be a really good answer to my opponent's Garchomp, as long as he wasn't like Ground DMZ or something. He could go for like a Fire Fang, I can go for a counter. That is, Fire Fang will do 60% to the Scissor set, and then we'll counter him and obliterate him. We'll just get him out of there. So I thought that sounded nice. Iron Head, obviously, because last time I tried to bullet punch my opponent's Alakazam in Psychic Terrain, and that didn't turn out well. So I didn't want to make that bonehead mistake again, and I just felt like my opponent would make sure to have Psychic Terrain up for a lot of the time. So I felt like Iron Head just made a little bit more sense. So I went with Iron Head, and then U-turn obviously for an actually a pretty good stab option, as well as a pretty slow, when looking at my opponent's team, a pretty slow U-turn. So it also seemed nice to get into some of my frailer but strong physical attackers in Mind Chow and Sneasel. So I like that a lot as an option. And obviously 252 in HP to be really bulky. 116 with an Impish Nature allows me to take a lot of hits from the Garchomp as well as the Drapion, so I really like that a lot. And 140 in special defense allows me to 100% live even a modest Mega Alakazam's Hidden Power Fire. And I knew my opponent would likely try to make that prediction at least once in the game, so I felt like that was something that'd be smart. But yeah, this is more of my defensive wall, so this is why I am Impish and not some special defense nature. So pretty much that's what I was thinking with Scissor. Really just, its typing was a little too much to pass up, and I just felt like it could hopefully take out one of those special attackers. That'd be huge if it was able to do that. Take out Lele or Alakazam. Either way, it just has a really good typing that I felt would be useful in this one. Then we get into, last but not least, we get into Sneasel, and Sneasel's pretty straightforward. 220 with the Jolly Nature allows me to outspeed Frostlass, so it outspeeds my opponent's entire team, barring the Mega Alakazam. So I feel like that was nice. I really did debate either Choice Band or Life Orb, but I had Choice Band for the longest. But I really didn't like the idea of being locked into moves. I didn't really want to have to go for Icicle Crash unless I absolutely needed to go for it, considering that it has that chance to miss. And I really didn't want Sneasel to end up just fainting because it missed an Icicle Crash unless I absolutely had to go for that. So that's why I also didn't like Choice Band, because I might want to get damage on something, but then I force myself to go for Icicle Crash. And that didn't sound the brightest. I really need Sneasel to take the least amount of damage possible, which is a little counterintuitive with the Life Orb, but at the same time, I feel like being locked into a move really hurt Sneasel's viability or usefulness in this one, so I didn't really like the idea of that. Brick Break actually does like very poor damage to a really defensive Miltank, so unless it was already chipped, I wouldn't really be going for Brick Break. Same with the Drapion, it's going to do like 30% to the Drapion, so unless it's already chipped, I'm probably not going to be going for Brick Break on Drapion. Knockoff does a ton of damage to Tapu Lele, so didn't really see the need to try to run Poison Jab or anything. And Ice Shard was just, I felt like there just might be a scenario where I would end up wanting to have priority. I didn't like it on the Sneasel because I felt like Iron Head was a solid backup option, but I mean on the Scissor. Didn't like it on the Scissor, but I didn't really see any other, like I said, Poison Jab would have literally only been for Lele, and Knockoff already does, like, it slightly misses, it's a roll on the Oko, I think it was a roll on the Oko, but it already does enough damage in my opinion, so I didn't see the need for Poison Jab at all on this moveset. So I was like, let's just throw an Ice Shard and see if it ends up helping us out at some point in the game. So in 252 in attack still, but not an Adamant because I need to be Jolly to outspeed Frostlass. To outspeed a lot of things, but this allows me to outspeed everything other than the Mega Alakazam, and I thought that was worth it. And I just put 28 in special defense just in case. Same thing with Mind Shell, just in case some special attack had some threatening move. I didn't run any calcs with this, so I don't know if that actually helped me live anything, but I just thought it was a smart just in case thing. And yeah, that's pretty much Sneasel. Just needed it to be an offensive threat. Obviously a pretty good answer to Garchomp, so I feel like Sneasel would be a pretty decent member on the team in this one. So right now, so we might as well hop in the game now, so I'll see you guys at the game. So we are here, MPL Division 2 semifinals. We are trying to make it into the championship game, and we want to at least be a semifinalist of the MPL Division 2. I feel like we've had a pretty strong season, so I feel like we really need to bring our best effort so that it doesn't feel like we didn't accomplish enough considering how pretty well our regular season went. So get hyped, guys. Semifinals against Frosty Alpha. His team is much more threatening, so I was honestly really nervous going into this one. I really didn't want to lose. I definitely wanted to make it into the championship, so I'm just trying to put my best effort forth, and we'll see how things rock out. Looking at my opponent's team, he brought the Thundurus. He brought the Mantine, which actually really surprised me. I had no clue really what Mantine wanted to do, but I don't have electric coverage, which is unfortunate, so I'm pretty much going to be relying on Stone Edge to hit that for good damage to be able to get rid of that Mantine, so that's a little tricky, unfortunately, but I feel like we'll still, as long as we don't miss Stone Edge, we should still be fine in that aspect. But missing a Stone Edge and getting scalded on our Landorus actually sounds terrible, so hopefully that doesn't happen. He brings the Miltank as expected. Then he brings the two very powerful psychic types as expected, and then he brings the Drapion as expected. Pretty much just wasn't absolutely sure Thundurus was coming, but it came. Pretty much made sense. Just the Mantine was pretty much the only thing that caught me a little off guard. Wasn't really sure what exactly it was going to do. But looking at lead matchups, I knew my opponent would likely predict I'd lead with Tapu Fini because last time I led with Fini, got up screens and gave my opponent a lot of trouble for their special attackers. And I thought if they didn't think Tapu Fini, if they didn't think I was going to lead Tapu Fini, then they definitely think I'd lead Landorus and just try to get up rocks right away. So I had a high hunch my opponent would lead with their Thundurus Therian, and I decided that leading with my Mind Chow would be my best answer for that, considering that Mind Chow my Mind Chow is Scarf, so it can go for a Stone Edge and Oko, and I might just be able to catch this Thundurus off guard if my opponent does lead with it. So it's pretty much what I was thinking. Let's see if that is actually there we are. So my opponent does actually lead with the Thundurus, and he's actually Scarf as well. So he ends up getting huge amounts of damage off on us. I don't know if he was modest. I don't know if he was timid. If he was modest, it was actually a roll that I think was like kind of half and half. I don't think it was really too much in either favor. I think it was slightly more in my favor if he was modest, but if he was timid, then we 100% lived that. So either way, that's a little unfortunate for my opponent that he didn't get that Oko on my Mind Chow. But already you see that EVs, that 60 I put in defense, special defense, coming in handy as we live that, and we're able to not miss a Stone Edge and take out this Thundurus Therian. So that's huge that we didn't miss that Stone Edge. Now we're able to take out this Thundurus Therian. It's not bad at all. My opponent goes into Tapu Lele, pretty quickly after that, I switch out. I got regenerated. I want to get my regenerated, and I obviously don't want to stay in on this. I'm locked into Stone Edge. So I go right into my Tapu Fini, not really knowing what my opponent 100% want to go for. They might go for a Shadow Ball. Uniclus doesn't sound like the best switch-in. So then I just go into Tapu Fini, and I set up a light screen, and this Mantine comes in on me. So I'm like, what is this going to do? It's not going to do anything to me. So let me start Calm Minding up, but then my opponent reveals Defog, and I absolutely forgot. I not only forgot that Mantine might have Defog as an option just for getting rid of rocks and everything. Completely forgot that Defog also gets rid of screens. Amazing bring on my opponents, and just really quality prep on their end, knowing that screens were such a problem for them last time and prioritizing having an answer for them. However, though, this Mantine's still really passive on my Fini. It does have Air Slash, which is a little annoying, especially now that my opponent just set it up Tailwind, but I don't really see what this can do to me. So I stay in for a little bit, but then I realize that I'm kind of getting chipped down. I set up the light screen again because I want it up, definitely want it up. Opponent reveals Roosto, so I feel like I could Calm Mind up more, but I really don't want to take a lot of unnecessary damage on Fini because I'm going to need it later. So realizing this is the last turn of Tailwind and knowing my opponent wouldn't be going for Scald, probably would go for I was predicting the Nair Slash, they go for the Defog, makes sense. I get in on Landorus, and I'm like, I'm ready to dish out some damage on this my Mantine. I want to go for that Stone Edge, don't want to over predict, even though I felt like the Miltank was a very obvious switch in. I still just go for Stone Edge here though. My opponent sets up rocks. I don't know what they're gonna do to me. I just go for the Rock Polish, and then after that Rock Polish, I go right for that Tectonic Rage. It was a roll to kill on the Miltank set I was looking at, which wasn't fully physically defensive. And I had to pray that my opponent, if they lived, did not go for Milk Drink. That would actually nullify everything I did, because I don't think a EQ after a Milk Drink at that 5% would have actually took out Miltank. So thank me, my opponent actually went for a Body Slam and not a Milk Drink, so that damage is there to stay on the Miltank. Everything on my team outspeeds Miltank, so I don't really see Miltank being able to get off a Milk Drink at any time. Oh, other than Uniclus. No, actually, I forgot. It actually depends on how much investment and speed this Miltank has. Uniclus and Scissor actually both don't outspeed it, so it could maybe Milk Drink on one of those two if it's able to get a switch in on them after they killed something or something. But I just don't see it happening. So I feel good about that damage on Miltank being actually staying there. My opponent does go into the Mantine, knowing that I was going to just go for another EQ. It's a safe play. I don't want to miss a Stone Edge, even though I knew there was a decent chance that my opponent might go into this Mantine. However, though, I do still outspeed the Mantine, so I just go for the Stone Edge, praying I don't miss. I don't miss. We get rid of Mantine. Now we're up. My opponent, oh my god, let me slow this down. So we get rid of the Mantine. We're already up 6-4, and things are looking pretty decent. Unfortunately, we do have rocks on our slide, and this is part of the reason why I wanted to choice ban Sneasel, was because I knew that rocks plus life orb damage would be a lot for Sneasel to take. It's extremely fail. I knew that it'll be a lot for it to take. So that's unfortunate. We don't have hazard removal, so that's a little unfortunate. However, though, we did get rid of two pretty big threats. Mainly that Thundurus was a huge threat, so really nice to get rid of that Thundurus. And we are still rock polished up and everything, so things look pretty good. My opponent goes into Tapu Lele, and I thought my opponent was a bulky Lele, and they just knew that they could live and attack, and that they would just go for a Psychic and maybe get rid of us. Even though I do have that 244 in special defense, I didn't feel like we'd be able to live a Psychic from this Lele, depending on what its item was. Wasn't really sure. No life orb or anything was revealed when my opponent went for Moonblast on Tapu Fini, so I'm still not sure exactly what it is. But I feel like my best play is to just go for a U-turn, just to get out of here, go back into maybe Fini and kind of just try to set up screens again before Fini goes down, because now I'm at a pretty low amount of health, so I probably am not going to be able to do much with Fini, which is unfortunate. I probably didn't play the Mantine exactly as well as I possibly could have, but either way, it's best to just U-turn out of here and get into something that can take on this Lele a little bit better, as I felt like my opponent knew they could live in EQ, and then they were just going to knock out our Landers here. But unfortunately, an actually way worse thing happens here, and obviously it was already kind of revealed. This ends up being a Scarf Lele, and that is absolutely terrible because I went for U-turn. So now I'm not, even though that's really good damage to get off on Lele, I'm not going to be able to come back in on rocks. So Landorus is gone. And if I had even the slightest hunch that not only the Thundurus is going to be Scarf, but also the Lele 2 Scarfers, I did not see that coming in the slightest. I would have definitely just stayed in and went for EQ, because I actually had a chance if this Lele wasn't bulking defensive invested or HP invested at all. It was actually a roll. I think it was like a 25% chance to OHKO this Lele with Earthquake. I would have definitely took those odds if I would have known that this Lele was freaking Scarf, and that I would have took that damage and not been able to come back in on rocks. So I felt terrible about that play, and I feel like this is one of the biggest turning points of the game, as momentum it swings dramatically now that my Landorus is out of the picture, and it can't get another rock polish up. I was thinking I was going to be able to rock polish up again later against maybe that Miltank or against the Drapion, mainly against the Drapion. I was thinking I was definitely going to be able to rock polish up on that Drapion again, and now Drapion becomes a huge threat now that I don't have my Landorus, because obviously it dies upon entry to rocks. So I feel terrible. I go into Sneasel though here, knowing that my opponent now is locked into Psychic, so no reason not to go into my Dark type that's immune to it. My opponent pretty much has to sack off their Whitney here, as I just go for a knockoff, as I feel like that was the safest play. Then my opponent goes right into Alakazam, no reason not to. It's the only thing that's going to, it outspeeds this. It can get off huge chunks of damage, no reason not to go into Mega Alakazam. I go into my Reuniclus predicting the hidden power. I felt like my opponent would definitely go for the hidden power, predicting my Scissor. I felt better about going into Reuniclus, and I actually double out, knowing that my opponent would try to Pursuit Trap me with Drapion, and unfortunately I just sacked my Landorus because I didn't have anything else that really was, there was no reason, I really didn't have anything else to go into, so I just sacked my Landorus there. And here, another huge play. My opponent goes for freaking Swords Dance here. And I 100% thought they'd just go for the attack or something. I just wanted to scout how much damage this thing would do to me. It going for Swords Dance was a huge deal, because then this makes this Drapion that much more of a threat and just so hard to deal with now that I don't have my Landers. And I just went for a Roost, because the Alakazam, if it came back in, will actually take out my Scissor with a Hidden Power Fire at the health that I'm at now. So I didn't want that to happen, so I go for a Roost, kind of just scouting out what Drapion does, but it goes for a Swords Dance, and that's actually terrible for me. Here, I'm thinking I could live any hit, so I actually go for a counter, thinking I could live any hit, and that I can take out this Drapion, but my opponent so smartly just goes for another Swords Dance, and then they reveal Fire Fang, and I actually scrolled through Drapion's moveset so quickly during my team building process, I didn't even know it got Fire Fang. I thought I could actually still live any hit, but Fire Fang is the one move that I absolutely cannot live in no case scenario. So I was thinking I was actually still going to be able to get a counter off on this and take this thing out. But I had no clue Drapion. I scrolled through its moveset so quickly and completely overlooked Fire Fang. That's definitely going to take out my Scissor. And now momentum's definitely shifting. We did get rid of the Miltank, but I lost 2 Pokemon now, and I'm looking at a +3 Drapion. I go into Mind Shot, nothing else on my team that can do enough damage to this thing. This was a roll if it was not bulk invested at all on the Drapion, no HP or defense on the Drapion. Obviously it's not, that's not the case. This is a Drapion with some actual bulk in it, and we're not going to take it out with a high jump kick. So unfortunately I'm also going to lose my Mind Shell now. And yeah, now we both only have 3 Pokemon left, and things are not looking good. Here I absolutely have to go into Sneasel. Drapion will actually take out anything else, and luckily for me, my opponent does not switch out on my Brick Break into Lele or something, and I am able to take out the Drapion with a Brick Break. I really did want to go for an Icicle Crash, predicting the Lele to come in or the Alakazam, but I honestly could not chance that accuracy. I would have absolutely lost the game there if I would have went for Icicle Crash and missed it. Didn't want to chance the accuracy, so I just went for Brick Break, hoping my opponent wouldn't switch out, and they don't switch out, so that is a huge break on my part. And I do feel like my opponent messed up just a tad bit in this late game, and that is the first kind of blunder that I feel like they made in this late game. Then Lele comes in. I know it's Scarf. I have to switch out. I go into my Reuniclus, hoping my opponent locks himself into Moonblast or some Psychic type move, and they do lock themselves into Moonblast, so that's good for me. I can recover up on this. I will have to recover this turn. Cannot go for Calm Mind because I would have lost my Reuniclus to the next Moonblast if I would have went for Calm Mind. And here I'm actually just going to recover again, even though I did feel like my opponent might switch out. I have to recover again just to be at the most optimal amount of health if my opponent went for another Moonblast there. So We are at full health now with our Reuniclus, but here is where I wish I would have just been fully invested in special defense and HP, because that Shadow Ball did 63%, so that reveals that this is a modest Mega Alakazam. But thankfully for me, I live on 6% with my Reuniclus, thanks to the investment we do have with 204 and the Calm Nature and the 44 in HP. But this would be so much less scary with the special defense drops from Shadow Ball, and with the just with the general how much those Shadow Balls are doing, about around the 38 to 42% range, 43% range. This would just be so much less scary if I actually had full investment in special defense and didn't have the investment in defense that didn't matter at all in this one, and the investment in special attack that really also didn't really matter, because either way Shadow Ball was going to 2-hit KO this, even with the investment I do have in special attack. So I really do wish I didn't invest in so heavily in both of those two stats. Now that we're in this late game, and pretty much I am leaning on Reuniclus heavily to somehow give us a chance in this game. So we'll see if Reuniclus can do it. I went for a Shadow Ball because I really needed the damage. I needed to get this into Ice Shard range. I look at how much damage the Shadow Balls are doing, and they were doing pretty much, I got one low roll where it did 38% after the one Calm Line, but they were pretty much doing at least 40% with the Shadow Balls. There was a 42%er and a 40.8% Shadow Ball. I was at exactly 40% with my Reuniclus at that point, so I couldn't chance another Shadow Ball taking me out. It seemed like that roll was not in my favor, so I switch out getting my Regenerator and just going into something. Now this Alakazam is an Ice Shard range, so I switch out into Tapu Fini, pretty much sacking it, and I go into Sneasel praying. I am absolutely praying right now that my opponent thinks I don't have Ice Shard, considering that in the last time we played I went for Bullet Punch and Psychic Terrain, and it obviously didn't do anything to Alakazam. My opponent was able to HP Fire and knock out my Mega Scissor, so I'm pretty sure that they're thinking this time, oh, he's definitely not going to bring priority this time, knowing that I have Psychic Terrain to my disposal and that I can easily switch out into Lele here, and I pretty much win the game if I switch out into Lele. If my opponent doesn't have Ice Shard, and I pretty much win the game here. And if they do have Ice Shard, I just switch out into Lele and easily win. So there's pretty much no reason for me to have Ice Shard. But like I told you guys, I didn't feel any need for any other coverage move. I didn't need Pursuit. I didn't feel the need for Pursuit. I didn't feel like I would have only pursued the Lele, and that's not actually super effective on it, considering that it's also a Fairy type. So I didn't feel any need for anything, for any fourth move other than Ice Shard. So I actually do have the Ice Shard, and I'm just praying, just absolutely praying that my opponent thinks I don't have it and they stay in with this Alakazam, because either way, no matter what I go for, I'm actually going to die to Life Orb recoil. So if the Lele comes in, it's not good, because then it could just spam Shadow Ball and pretty much win the game, especially with a Alakazam still around and alive too as well. So I pray, and my opponent stays in with the Alakazam, thinking I don't have thinking I don't have Ice Shard, and oh my lord, did that play! Was my heart beating? Was that crazy? Definitely a pretty big misplay on my opponent's end, considering that they literally just needed to switch into Lele, and I definitely lose that game. So, oh, that's just such a huge deal. Now my opponent can definitely spam Shadow Ball, and they can still get a crit, they can still get special defense drops, and I can definitely still lose this game. But I actually had pretty much no hope if they would have not stayed in with that Mega Alakazam. I actually had pretty much no hope. So at least there's a chance now. And as you can see, my opponent's going for the Shadow Balls, and they're actually not getting the special defense drop, and they're also not getting crits. So now I can finally go for a Calm Mind on this turn, as I will still be over half, and that's a good position to be in. Here I will have to go for a Recover again. I'm still not getting no special defense drops, no crits. This is, oh, things have not went well in this game, especially that turning point with Landorus, me not predicting the Scarf, but we're able to pull it out. We are able to pull it out somehow, some way. We are able to pull out this game, because pretty much due to a pretty big misplay on my opponent's end, that especially once they saw I was Life Orb, kind of no reason not to switch out the Mega Alakazam there. I realized my opponent kind of, hindsight 2020, my opponent kind of was like, I really don't think you have priority, because last time you went for a priority and it didn't work. You know I have Psychic Terrain. I don't really think you have priority. But and you always have to consider everything in league format, and just in the case that I had it, it was just so much better of a play to switch into Lele and win that game there. But thankfully my opponent did not go for it. We take those, we 100% take those, and we are going to be in the championship game for the MPL Division 2. I am so hyped, guys. Thank you guys so much for those of you who have continued to watch and support these videos and support this crazy endeavor of the first league I've partaken in as a content creator. This is crazy, absolutely crazy that we were able to win this game. I knew that this team was going to give me trouble with the additions my opponent made, and just that scarf caught me so off guard on that Tapu Lele. It just, that just really changed. I just started to lose members started to drop immediately after that, as well as that Drapion Swords Dancing that also really caught me off guard, especially with me not also realizing it got Fire Fang. So that also really caught me off guard, but I really don't think there's much I was going to be able to do to that Drapion either way. However, though, we found a way. We absolutely found a way. On the back of Reuniclus, the freaking team captain, my pride and joy, Reuniclus. I absolutely love this Pokemon in League format. It's done so much for me, and I can't thank it enough for somehow finding a way, not getting crit, not getting a special defense drop on the Alakazam or from the Lele, just not allowing it, refusing to go down, refusing to lose this game. I love you, Reuniclus. Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I'm still in awe that we were able to win this game. I'm still in awe. The other game that we have going on is Cap against, who exactly was he against? I can't remember who Cap was against. Who the heck was he against? I can't remember who Cap was against, but the other game's going on. As soon as they're done and finished up, I will be trying to get into that championship game and definitely bringing you guys a quality championship battle for the MPL Division 2. But man, guys, this has been a wild ride. I'm still astonished that we were able to win this. Thank you all so much for supporting me. Like I said, really means the world to me. This is exactly what league format's all about. When you pull out those really crazy ones, it feels absolutely insane. It's an undescribable feeling, and I'm just so lucky to have even been in this position. Oh man, we'll see exactly who we end up facing in the championship. We'll see what they bring for us. I'll be trying to bring my absolute best. I'll see you guys in the next MPL Division 2 video. For now though, guys, thank you so much for watching, but I'm gonna get the heck out of here. Peace out.